Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the live stream. We will get going in a moment, as usual. Just give everyone an opportunity to jump in if they want to jump in. Good morning, Denise. How are you? Going to be going over some of the markets today. Obviously, we've had some data release from the US today, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll go over some charts of interest. But yeah, it's looking quite interesting out there at the moment. Hi, Vincent. Good afternoon. Good stuff. I'm great, thank you, Denise. Hello, Nafuel. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. Good morning, Mohammed. I hope you are well. Right. It's gonna be an interesting week this week. It's going to be very, very interesting considering what we've got on the plate this week. Not only do we have the Federal Reserve or the federal funds rate, we've got ECB forecasts as well. We've got the Bank of Japan also releasing their monetary policy statements. So yeah, this is going to be a super interesting week. Typically, when we get these kind of high impact news weeks, we can often see the market shift away from this sort of risk on scenario, and we start to see a little bit more risk off coming in. But that's kind of the opposite of what we're seeing at the moment, to be honest. Aussie yen's still moving higher as we kind of thought it would. I did a video on CAD yen yesterday, and that's now breaking the highs. So the risk on scenario is definitely one that is interesting at the moment. And the thing is, that could change in a heartbeat, but especially with weeks like we've got this week. Now, CPI data out of the US today came in at 0.1%, down from 0.4%. Core CPI, so core CPI is without food and energy, still remained at 0.4%, so still a little bit sticky there on core CPI. But looking at the Fed Watch tool, we can see that 96.5% of the market is now pricing in a pause from the Federal Reserve. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Roll. Hope you're both well. Denise, I'm in dollar yen and have 50 pips secured. Watch and see if it can break 140. Nice. Let's go take a look at some charts then. So dollar yen is going to be definitely an interesting one to watch. We kind of discussed the sort of double inside play at the moment that's going on here. We've got this bearish inside candlestick. Now, usually when we get these type of candlesticks, let me just zoom myself out here. When we get these type of candlesticks, we can often see a sort of explosion in price. So I think that's what we're building up here. We've got a potential for price to trade through that 140.40, maybe even head to the 142s. If it trades above that, you've got sort of the 145 spot 50s. If we see the opposite happen, then, a break of the 138 spot 68 could lead to a 137 spot 50 move. And then beyond that, the only kind of lows really are down at this 130 spot 25 from a weekly perspective anyway. But yes, interesting play here. We're seeing that sort of squeeze, aren't we, coming in after a rally. Usually in these type of market situations where you see a rally and a squeeze, there can often be a continuation out of that move in the direction of where prices come from. So, likelihood is, are we going to see price head towards that 142? It's just how priced in is the market at the moment in terms of, looking at the obviously it says 96.5% of the market's pretty much saying it's pretty much a guarantee that the Fed are going to hold interest rates going into the meeting. Now, there is some data ahead of that as well. We do have core PPI data as well tomorrow, as well as PPI. Now, that could be a little bit of a sticking point for the Fed. If we were to see some kind of increases there, that could put the Fed in on a little bit of a potential to hike again. But I just don't see it happening now. I think it's more likely that we are going to see that hold by the Fed at 5.25%. So it's just, how does the market take that reaction? Okay, so you got to think about it. We've been pricing in this sort of rate pause for a while now, and prices has moved higher. So if the pause occurs, what will happen to the dollar index? Will it trade higher? If I just have a little look at some other data up here, what else do we have? Yeah, like I said, we have the ECB expected to hike rates tomorrow, 3.75% to 4%. That's going to be an interesting watch as well. But we'll see what happens to the dollar. I'll go over to some charts, go through some charts in a second. I'm just having a look at the dot plot from the FOMC participants to see if, when they're pricing in sort of where they're seeing kind of rates coming in lower. So it looks like it's coming in lower around about 2024 still. So yeah, that's going to be a interesting one to watch as well. So let's go through some charts of interest. Like I said, the yen's performing pretty poorly at the moment. Yen is still getting battered across the market. So we'll go take a look at that as well. But as always, guys, if you have any questions, if you have any comments you want to add in, you have any charts of interest that you want me to take a look at, please feel free to drop them into the comment section. More than happy to go through those as well. So yeah, you guys just let me know what markets you want to have a look at as well. But dollar index, we've come back into the 103s today. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, prices starting to find a little bit of support down through this area here. Whether that's sustained, obviously we need to wait and see. Price will have to trade through around about the 103.80 highs which formed here in order for me to be a real sort of believer that dollar strength is coming back just yet. At the moment, we're just still in that sort of bearish sort of pullback phase on this daily chart. So we need to see if that 103 will hold or not, but I don't really expect too much to go on in front of the FOMC, especially tomorrow. Markets can tend to sort of range before these big decisions. So yeah, I'm expecting some kind of like sideways action going into that meeting. If I just go through some euro, so I've been day trading a little bit of euro lately, so I've been pretty long today, looking for some further upside, especially this morning. Haven't really done much this afternoon, so we'll wait to see if the price can kind of sort itself out. I didn't really want to trade through the CPI data, to be honest. So yeah, I was down on the sort of lower time frame, scalping a little bit of euro today. But euro, very similar to what's going on here really on the dollar index. If the dollar index starts finding support, will euro dollar trade to the downside? There's that potential there. So let's just do some technicals on this. We can see that we've got these highs here around about the 1.0. Let's make that 75. These highs that formed all the way back in sort of the end of April. Interesting highs to look at. So if we return back to that price at some point, there's going to be potentially some action going on in and around this area. So again, I just like to mark up these kind of interesting points. Yeah, let's have a look at these lows here. So these lows are what were interested in me before as well with euro. If price could break to the downside, there is a potential. So we'll say this is, I don't know, if a 25 will be a little bit too much of a drop there. I always like to sort of round them to the quarter numbers or half numbers or whole numbers, and then I create these zones around them. So if you are wondering how to draw your support and resistance levels, this is always a nice consistent way of how to do it, because you can just grab your zone then make them into zones like that. Okay, so if you are struggling with that part of your trading at the moment, then there's some opportunities there. But yeah, really speaking, for me, I just want to wait how the dollar reacts, to be honest. I'm very much dollar focused at the moment. So yeah, we'll see how the ECB come out tomorrow, whether they're more hawkish. Problem is, if they consider hiking rates even further, then they've got the recessionary risk. So there is that potential to come as well for the ECB. And recessionary risks are not very good. How do you put the price on the chart? Prince Caleb, hello. I'll use quarter levels for my support and resistance. Awesome. Basically, if you go to so are you using MetaTrader? If you're using MetaTrader, if you go up to the top of the screen, so I'm on MetaTrader 5, it says draw an arrow at the top. If you select draw an arrow, it says left price label or right price label. I just select the left one most of the times. It doesn't usually show up as this. If I was to kind of reset it, it looks a little bit sort of smaller. So the way you can kind of make it bigger is coming into the style section here and coming to this section and just making the sort of line weight a little bit thicker. So that kind of increases that for you. But yeah, I use it for stream purposes as well, because it's very difficult for MetaTrader for people to see the right hand side, the price on the right hand side. So I try and make it as big as I possibly can without sort of making it a bit too much overkill there. Hi Bongo, hope you're well. Right, so like I said, we have a look at some kind of risk currencies. We've got Aussie US dollar here, and we were looking at Aussie yen, and we were saying that the Aussie yen looked like it was going to continue to trade to the upside here, especially as we traded through this 93 handle. And I think what we looked at in particular last week was the fact that if this area did act as resistance, we would expect the price to act a certain way, but we just weren't seeing that, and price was broken through these highs here at the 93 handle, and it looks like we're heading up to that 95.50 handle now. So this is going to be the next point of interest really for Aussie yen, and this is where I'm kind of talking about the fact that we've got this real sort of risk on rally at the moment, and yeah, Aussie yen is really sort of heading to the upside because of that. But 95.50 I think is the level to watch out for now, or the zone to watch out for as we head into sort of this week. The only thing I would say is that I always say that when you trade in a cross pair, you are trading the Aussie sort of US dollar price against dollar yen. Okay, so let's say we wanted to see Aussie yen trade lower, we would need to see Aussie US dollar move lower, and we'd need to see dollar yen move lower as well. Now we've got sort of an interesting development happening here with Aussie US dollar. So if we just go and take a look at Aussie US dollar, we are at the resistance highs here at this 0.68. So we can kind of tick one sort of off the list here in terms of we're at this major resistance point, these range highs that have been acting as resistance for pretty much the entire year. So if we find resistance here again, and if we do start to see price coming down again, can we assume that price has found resistance again? And if it does, will it then trade back to the low of the range? And that's when we have to consider looking at our cross pairs. The only problem we have is that dollar yen is not anywhere near the resistance level that we're expecting it to be at yet. So there's still potential for Aussie yen to continue above that 95.50 before we get any kind of selling action, because we've still got price to potentially head up to 142 here on dollar yen. Now, if we just go down to a lower time frame here, let's just have a look at what's going on here on dollar yen. The only thing is it's very sort of choppy down here on these lower time frames at the moment. Let's just clear a few things up. Let's just add our indicators to the chart that we're using just to visualize those trends. Okay, and you can see, if I just pop them all on there. I have made a template, but I didn't want to lose all the analysis there. You know, we are still technically 20 above the 50. They are kind of really close together now. This is where averages can be quite powerful to look at. When we do get an average that kind of squeezes together after a rally. So, for instance, down through here, we rally, we squeeze together. Look at the accelerated rally we get out of that. Again, we kind of pull back down, we squeeze with the averages, and then the acceleration we get away from that. Okay, so it's going to be an interesting one to watch, I think. You know, we've got a potential sort of strategy setup forming, really. We've got a bullish candlestick, got the 20 above the 50, and we're crossing above the 50 RSI here. So, you know, traders looking to get long on dollar yen, you know, this could be a good opportunity to look for the long to 142. That's 200 pips or so, 200 pips to the next sort of target level. Stop losses, if we bring in the ATR, let's have a little look at ATR. So yeah, ATR spiked quite a bit here. So we're looking at around about 80 pips on your ATR. Probably want to be above that because that doesn't even get you to the low. So I would argue that you want to be at least below these sort of lows or the early low here. Maybe 114 on your pips, maybe even 120. So, you know, you could look at something like this where you've got your entry above that sort of candlestick. We've got, if it will like to move. This is the only problem with MetaTrader. It just doesn't move. Here we go. Oh, and then I've got the mag on, so it's going to lock onto a currency. There we go. Right, we got there in the end. So you could look at something like that. Let me just zoom in a little bit, guys, so you can see that. Where you look at the sort of, if the candle closes like this, obviously, in the next sort of 40 minutes or so, you know, you could look for that potential breakout move. With a move up to sort of that 1.5 hour at 142. That's what I would look at personally anyway. That's something that's definitely there. If we go and have a look at some other opportunities across the board then, so like I said, Aussie yen is just absolutely ripping to the upside here. There hasn't really been any pullbacks on the 4-hour time frames anyway. We haven't really seen much in the way of retracement phases. So if I was going to sort of adopt this sort of strategy here, then, you know, you'd have to go down to your hourly to look for those opportunities where you get the crossover and you get your pullbacks into the averages before sort of price spikes through the RSI there. So, you know, that's the only sort of way you could potentially look at those opportunities, I feel, is to go to a lower time frame. But that's what happens when we get one currency that's really strong, one currency that's really weak, like Aussie yen. And yeah, prices surged. There was one currency pair that I did want to take a look at. We actually looked at this last week, and it was Euro Swiss. Swissy starting to weaken slightly. I do have an alert set for a potential pullback here. And what we looked at was this weekly chart. And we looked at a sort of number of Swiss pairs last week, but I think we looked at sort of Aussie Swiss, Kiwi Swiss, and they were all starting to rally. So if I just go on to Aussie Swiss here, you can see we were looking at this sort of breakout point. And I think one of you guys was actually long Aussie Swiss into the 0.62 25, or it might have been the 60.98 that I've highlighted here. So yeah, that one's continued to rally quite nicely. Obviously, that Aussie strength has played a big part in that. But you know, are we going to see the same here with Euro? And what I quite liked was the fact that we're kind of slowing down into these levels here. So if we kind of look left, we're at the sort of 0.97 handle. We've seen it act as support a couple of times in the past. So maybe we're going to see another move up to these levels. So if I was to plot this out properly, I would add in a support zone through here. I would add the level as 97. pop that in there like that. And then I'd always kind of look at the weekly and go, okay, well, where's our next sort of area where price has acted as support and resistance, and it's a clear area that we've rejected. Now, you can kind of see a number of those areas. You've got these highs in here, this high, this high. So what I try and do as best as I can is try and kind of look left as well, see if there's any kind of lows. So I can see this low in here, and just try your best to find an area where price can kind of fall, fall through those points. So, I would always look sort of at the immediate high. Then if I can bring it down slightly, just kind of get everything else involved as well. So we'll probably go 10025 on these. Okay, because what we can do then as well is once we have this price label in at 25, so let's just put that up there. Well, one thing you can do is you can also rate to the left, so you can see it comes in at this low as well. Okay, or the other thing that you can do is add our zone in, and hopefully then that kind of catches most of the area. So there's a potential for Euro Swiss to head up to this kind of zone. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, are we getting our sort of strategy setups here? Potentially, we're breaking through here. The market's crossed over the 20 and the 50 moving average. So we're making higher highs as well. We've broken through these highs here on Euro Swiss. So it's about what happens at this area now. Do we start getting a bit of a pullback, or does price, start to sort of break out and take off? And if it does, then we'd have to just sit and wait and be patient. If not, we'll see if it can pull back. So I have set an alert. My alert currently rests at 97.30, but I might end up putting that up around about the 97.50 area instead, just because it encompasses all that sort of resistance as well that was there before. So Euro Swiss, I think, is definitely a good one to watch as well. Prince Caleb. Cable finally to 127. Let's go and have a look at cable. Yeah, so this is a market that we've been sort of bullish on, especially because of this weekly time frame, this weekly bullish trend that's been forming on cable. I've got the one spot 26.50 as the level of interest for me. One spot 27 just comes in a little bit above that area, obviously. So I just wanted to make sure that it went through those highs back in May of 2022. So yeah, I'm fully on board with that, to be honest. I think we're probably going to reach this level of resistance if I just take out that box. It's looking very, very likely that we're going to make it there. Be interesting to see if we trade through it, and if the dollar weakens and we trade through it, then this is going to be the next level of interest, isn't it? Up around about this one spot 3, maybe even 325. It'd be interesting to see if we get anywhere near that. I probably will drop that to the 3, to be honest. And then we can add a label. But yeah, I fully agree. I think price is going to head towards that one spot 26.50. And again, we're going to have to see how price reacts once it gets there. If the dollar continues to weaken, do we trade through that level and head higher? Again, one thing you can do is grab onto that 4-hour chart. Okay. 20 and 50 have crossed. We rejected this area in here, this resistance. Price got above it, came back in. And again, look at that. Nice little move through there that you could have had a little move on. That would have netted you a few pips there. Definitely. So cross back through here. Be about 80 pips up. 120 pip target potentially there. So yeah, that one's looking pretty good. That one's looking pretty good for further upside. We also have the Bank of England Bailey spoke today, didn't he? I don't actually know the comments from that, so I will just have a quick look. So I've been focusing mainly my time on the US at the moment, so we'll have a little look if there's anything in the news. Bank of England rate setter says further hikes may be needed. This could be why Bank of England to hoist interest rates to 5.75% as experts warn UK inflation is out of control. So that's probably why we're seeing that strength in the pound, isn't it? Is because there are more hikes to potentially come for the UK, which is fantastic if you're in the UK like myself. Dollar CAD sharing, hope you're well. Dollar CAD, my short went live about an hour ago. So far, so good. Yeah, cool. Let's have a look at dollar CAD then, because dollar CAD was an interesting market for me because we were coming back into this one spot 33 handle. Obviously, Bank of Canada have hiked interest rates lately, so CAD has been fairly strong, and it's actually the strongest on the strength meter tool at the moment as well. So don't know if I'll be able to bring that onto the screen. Let's see if I can grab that up as well. So yeah, on our currency strength meter going into this week, CAD is the strongest currency. So whenever we get into these kind of spots on our currency strength meter, I always look at it in two ways. It means that CAD is super strong, and it's in that point of potential exhaustion as well, and that we could see some reversals. Doesn't mean it's going to happen this week, but what it means is that CAD is potentially coming to a little bit of an end, and it may not happen this week. Like I said, it may not even happen next week. We may get a sort of couple of weeks of price sort of stalling. You can see here when the dollar was up here before, it kind of stalled for 3 weeks before it started to weaken. So there's maybe a little bit of room to go, but it's at this level where I'm interested in to see what happens next in terms of if that weakness does come in, it could be quite aggressive. So that's the way I'm looking at CAD at this moment in time. But yeah, if you're short about an hour ago, nice, price has dropped through. What I would say is just that you are at a massive level of support. You know, you can see in the past, price has reacted from here. We've rallied 300 pips, 400 pips or so. You know, that one made the whole journey back to the range highs. So I would just be a little bit careful there. I think you've probably got these lows here as the kind of last point of sort of protection. If price trades through that, then that opens the door up to a larger move for dollar CAD. But yeah, I'm interested in CAD pairs, definitely. Let's go take a look at some other pairs, though. We were talking about pound Aussie. And pound Aussie was an interesting market for us because of this double top pattern that formed. We also had the RSI on here showing that we had some divergence as well, some bearish divergence. And it looks like, you know, price has now come back into that sort of neckline area. So this is the area where I said it may get a little bit tricky now because price is coming into a bit of support, but the daily kind of performed as expected in terms of we moved to the downside, price then rallied a little bit, and then we've kind of had this kind of very short range candlestick. The only problem I think we've got at the moment is pound is strong, Aussie strong, so we need one to start giving up, and we just saw that the Aussie US dollar price was at resistance and the pound price was heading towards resistance. So that to me again kind of shapes up the fact that pound may have a little bit further to go. Aussie's at the ceiling now, so sellers might be starting to get involved or at least start taking profits on Aussie positions. So Aussie could start to weaken slightly over the next couple of sessions. Denise Gold is dropping. I entered the stream as it started. Awesome. I guess that's why. I guess that's in line with the sort of dollar index hitting that 103. Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty sideways, haven't we, on gold? Wasn't necessarily something I expected, to be honest. We were waiting for some kind of breakouts to happen here. This 1950 handle has played a big role in price. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one for gold as well. Gold, any kind of dollar strength coming in here at the 103s, and that drives prices higher towards the what was it again, the 105 handle. Is definitely going to see gold prices pushing back down towards this 1890 area, or 1880 that we've got marked out. I don't know where the price labels have gone here. I have to start adding these back in. So the 1950. I don't know where those have gone. And pretty sure it was 1890 in the end. So yeah, that's the kind of area where gold could come into, isn't it? That 1890 handle. We also have the $1,800 handle as well, which is, you know, a massive level on gold and has been for some time. But it's interesting to see, are we starting to see price track? I know this is a little bit messy, the chart, but are we going to start seeing this, you know, range play here where we've hit the top of the range now? Are we going to see that big, deep sort of move back into the range lows, back into the 1600 area? That's going to be super interesting for gold, isn't it? Because that would require the dollar to go on a serious move, which isn't off the plate, really, is it? You know, there's still recessionary fears globally as well. Usually in those type of environments, you know, the dollar can perform pretty well. So, you know, there's definitely not off the cards a big move to the downside. But yeah, we just have to monitor this as well as it goes weekly. You know, that could be a nice move to be involved with, to be honest, Denise, especially if we can trade through these lows here. If we trade through these lows, it does open that door up to that 1890 point. So yeah, definitely a good one to watch going in there. I think anything dollar bullish at the moment looks pretty good. You know, down at this 103 is very interesting for buyers at the minute. So yeah, quite like dollar yen. Dollar yen just breaking that high on the hourly now. You know, that one looks pretty good to go as well. Vincent, Euro Oz, Euro Pound. Yep, let's get on to those. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. As well, I quite like that dollar yen move. But let's have a quick look. Apologize as well if you can hear stuff going on in the background. It's just it's again super hot today actually in the UK, so I've got every window and door open possible. So right, let's get on to those Euro Aussie pairs then and Euro Pound pairs. Like I said, I like Euro Swiss. That's quite a nice one to look at. Euro Aussie could be an interesting market. What are you looking to do with that, Vincent? Are you looking to be a buyer of it? Are you looking to be a seller? Do I have a Euro Oz on here? Don't think I do. I think I have the Pound Oz pairs, don't I? Euro Oz. Let's just bring on our template there. And then Euro Pound. I know we were very short Euro Pound. I know that it was at a big level though, but it did offer another short opportunity recently. Let's have a look. Is it majors? If it majors on it, yeah, Euro Pound. Oh yeah, look at that short. Yeah, nice short coming into there. Right, let's talk about Euro Pound first then, because obviously there is that sort of play of the pound getting stronger, euro not really making any ground. What we discussed on this most recently was the fact that we traded sort of outside of this range here and that we were looking to potentially target down at these lows through here, which could then lead to sort of a breakdown to these lows. So let's put some actual figures in on what we're talking about here. So the lows back in sort of July, August 2022, stand around 83.73. So we're going to go 83.75 on that. Again, 0.8375. Just going to add a price label into these, because if price does start to go, further in terms of, we've just seen on there that the Bank of England are going to potentially hike rates even further, that could cause sort of pound to increase in value. These lows here then, so we've got 85.50. That could be a good low to watch out for. 85.50. That's not right. I'll put a 0 in front of that as well. But yeah, 0.8550 looking good here. Which are these lows that formed back in December of 2022. So they're looking nice. We had this range up here as well, which was the 87.50. We'll go 87.25 on that. We'll go the quarter number. And then we had 89.50 up here, wasn't it? Sorry, I've called some of the charts because this is the sort of, I have an analysis section and a trading section, so sometimes I don't leave the charts on here if it's kind of not shaping up. So 87.25 in there. And let's put in that 85.50 handle. Nice, right. Right, so they were kind of like our big weekly levels of interest, aren't they, for euro pound. So once we kind of get into those levels again, it's kind of judging where price is going to go next. So we're at that big level of support. So this could have put you off any type of sort of short entry recently, because we traded through that low. We kind of had a really positive reaction, didn't we? Price kind of formed this bullish engulfing candle, which a lot of traders, if you were just a purely technical trader and you saw a bullish engulfing candle at support, 90% of retail traders would jump at that. But if you understand strength and weakness, if you understand what's going on sort of economically, then, price is more likely to sort of trade lower here because pound is getting stronger. If we trade through these key lows here as well, it could trigger some serious sell positions, especially because if people are long above that candlestick high, stops below the lows there, that could be a really nice target for sellers at the moment to take the other side of the order. So we could see a little bit of a breakdown here. Now, if we were looking at it from our strategy point of view, you wouldn't be long anyway, because 20 and 50 are still in line. The RSI is still showing shorts as well. There was multiple opportunities to get short here, and most recently there. So yeah, this one for me is still a short. The only thing I would say, obviously, is we are at support. So, you have to look at your reward to risk ratio. Then, is it worth it? I don't think it's worth taking a trade with a 50 pip stop to get 26 pips. Personally, I don't think that's worth it. When you're trading this type of strategy anyway, you need to have a positive reward to risk ratio. So I would be wary of that. I'd wait for the break to the downside, and if we've got that new lower low, then I'd be okay for further moves lower there on your euro pound. Euro Aussie then. Sorry, just got a message here. It's triple digits here in Arizona. Yeah, that still absolutely baffles me. Not in terms of just because it's hot. It's just, how do you cope in that heat? I'm definitely typically British. The sharing, will the Fed pause rates? It looks very likely they will. How will the dollar react? We kind of went over that at the beginning. But yeah, there's a 90% plus chance that the Fed are going to pause rates in the next meeting. So that is very likely. How the dollar will react? Well, what we've seen recently is that the market's been pricing in a pause and the dollar's been getting stronger. So read into that what you will. What you do typically get is a sort of an opposite reaction. So there is the possibility that the dollar could weaken off the back of this data. The reason I say that is because there used to be there's a saying in trading, which is buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So the rumor is that the Fed are going to pause interest rates. So price has been moving to the upside, right? The news then is announced. What will happen to price, because I think what you'll see is retail will be positioning themselves as well. And that's where a lot of retail traders can go wrong as well, is you're trying to trade the news when in fact the market has already priced in the news ahead of time, because that's what they have to do. They have to price in these type of events as well. Yeah, Denise, I like that. I live in front of a fan with gallons of water for 3 months. Yeah, if I could get the fan on here, I would, to be honest. But I don't know whether the microphone would appreciate it. Just got iced coffee instead. Right, so let's go on to Euro Aussie. I'm getting distracted. Euro Aussie, we're still in that sort of downward move, aren't we? Now, what's quite interesting about this market as well, we're technically sort of trending to the upside here. We're making higher highs here, higher lows. So in theory, will this trend continue? Yeah, potentially. Where could it continue at? We're going to have to be looking at key areas of support and resistance, So if we look at this area through here, for instance, you've got sort of the 58. I'm going to roll that down to 75. If it doesn't jump too much. Yeah, so this area could be an interesting one to watch. 58.75 on here. So we're approaching that area now. So this is a good point to maybe starting to watch to see what happens with price. If you get a nice bullish weekly rejection here, does that mean that we're going to start heading higher? If it heads higher, where do we usually go to? Well, we usually try and hit those previous highs, don't we? So one of the areas of interest could be around about the 166.75. Okay. A 166.75. Like so. Could be your sort of target point. Do we have any kind of things to back this up? Got a bit of a trend line running through there, but price has traded through that, so not really of any interest unless we try and make it fit the mold. But yeah, it's not really anything going on just through there. So again, I'll be looking at this area now and saying to myself, how's price going to react? Or do we get price trading through that zone? And if it does, where's it going to go to? Well, the next level of interest is then going to be down here, but we don't need to worry about that right now because price hasn't done that. Again, I'll be down on that lower time frame. What is the 4 hour doing here? Are we seeing any kind of changes in trend? Well, we've got maybe a sort of slight double bottom pattern forming here. If I just zoom in, if you are a big sort of divergence RSI trader, right, you've got, let's see if it shows up more on the hourly. Okay, so on the hourly, you can see it in a little bit more detail. Price has made a new low down through here, but the RSI is making higher lows. So those divergence traders out here may be starting to sort of jump on the boat here for a potential move to the upside on a reversal. What I would say is I'd want to see a little bit more out of this now. So again, if you're kind of following along with this strategy that we're going through at the moment, then the thing is for you is you're going to wait for price to turn. You're going to wait for the 20 and 50. Yes, you are waiting for a longer period of time, but you're going to get into a safer trade. Okay. and then you're going to look for your RSI situation before looking for opportunities. Okay. Now, if you think that that's going to be too late, then you can also watch that on the hourly chart as well. There's no harm in watching the hourly, looking for the break on the hourly, the 20 and the 50 cross on the hourly as well. So definitely something you can watch there as well. But even the daily chart, you can see we're kind of slowing down into this level now, aren't we? So yeah, I think Euro was definitely one to watch, Vincent, but I would put it on my watch list just to see if we get those kind of breakout moves. You could start setting some alerts. You know, maybe an alert above this high here, the 159.35. So if you go into your alert there, just set some alerts. If price ends up going above that area, then great. You know, you can get these alerts sent to your phone as well. You can type out what the alert says to you. So you can say, you know, I want it to say Euro was breakout of highs. You can change the action to a mail or a notification. If you've got your notifications set up on your phone, I'll start that again. Of highs, then you know it gets sent straight to your phone there. So yeah, we'll see how that one performs as well. I prefer the notification actually to the sound, because you can get the sounds going off and you don't know what, you know, necessarily why it's going off. You go to your alerts and especially if you've got 2 or 3 going off at the same time, you know, it can be a little bit confusing. So I prefer just using the notifications there. So we'll see if we get a breakout of that one. Denis going to wait for the 4 hour to close. Looks like a hammer is forming. Yeah, definitely looks like a hammer's forming there. Yeah, but I'd probably be a little bit more cautious with that one at the moment. Aussie Swiss, we were talking about Aussie Swiss, Euro Swiss, CAD Yen. This is what we were talking about. So yesterday I was talking about the potential for CAD Yen to reach this 104 spot 50. We actually discussed this last week, didn't we, in the live stream? We were looking at this candlestick and we were saying, well, I need to see price, you know, perform and trade lower from here. And it just hasn't done that. So price has broken through. We're continuing to move higher. We have to ask ourselves the question, where's price likely to go to? Now, there is some highs just in here, around about the 105.90. So if I just go to a daily chart and zoom out, we do technically have a little bit of resistance coming into here. But is that going to be enough to stop, you know, the yen weakness in the market and whatnot? Probably not. So, you know, if price trades through this high, we're probably going to see further upside to CAD Yen. And again, you can apply the strategies there. You know, look at the 4 hour chart. You know, when did price break below the 50? Well, it did it here. Where did it close above the 50 on this candle? And yeah, that's about 108 pips to the good at the moment. So, you know, that is something that you can potentially look into there. But I would say the only thing is the weekly is looking, you know, a little bit overextended now. But you know, the market can remain overextended for as ever long. You know, if you start shorting here and price continues to go, then you're going to become very poor very quickly. So yeah, I would wait around for price to react, form with your bias before getting involved. Any questions, guys? I did see some seasonal stuff that I was going to touch upon, but I don't know whether I will, to be honest. It's the US Treasury bonds. Again, we kind of talked about the correlation between the bonds and the dollar index before. You know, now it's starting to come into a period of bullishness for the US bonds. So, yeah, it could be an interesting, you know, little bit of a time to come here. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, tomorrow is the big event. You know, Wednesday is the big event. I'll be live streaming again on Thursday. Vincent, the RSI and CAD Yen is not making higher highs. What do you make of that? Let's have a look. What time frame is that, Vincent, if you don't mind me asking? Is it the 4 hour? Yeah, so you basically got your divergence. I see what you're saying here, right? You've got your divergence. If you're using the RSI as a divergence tool, then you've got your divergence there. So, like I said, divergence traders would probably be looking at that for, potential short opportunities. But again, before you even get to this market, right? So always ask yourself the question, when we're looking at CAD yen, why do you want to be in that market? This is probably one of the most things that would change your mindset about trading as well. Why do you even want to be in this position in the first place, right? Why do you want to be short from there? If it's just a technical reason of why you want to be short there, or strategy reason, I would rethink your plan. Okay, you want your why first, or at least, if you're not why, then what drives this market? Okay, what is driving this market at the moment? Now, I would say, the yen weakness is definitely driving this market at the moment. Is that likely to change at the moment? Is there any reasoning to be why you should be, not short yen? Well, no. Although it could change quite quickly, there's no reason why we should not be still short the yen at the moment. Okay. So yeah, that's a thing I would say if you are going to start looking into indicators. Remember always as well, indicators are lagging behind price. So you have to also take into consideration that price is always king. So you need to understand what drives it first. Then you can understand the potential of what could happen next, and take that forward, if that makes sense. I'm not going to be live streaming the FOMC tomorrow, unfortunately. No, I'll be doing the live stream on Thursday. So we'll be able to talk about the reaction of it and maybe how things turned out on Thursday. I'll probably do a video on it though, to be honest, going into the session. I'll probably do sort of a pre-federal funds rate announcement video. Okay. Right, guys, I think I'm going to leave it there. I've been streaming for about 50 minutes or so. It's very hot in this room at the moment, so I'm going to get some air, I think. But yeah, thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the comments, questions as usual. Can you show some of your recent trades in the future? Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll show you some of my recent trades. I've been scalping euro a little bit lately, so I'll show you that. Cool. I will see you all guys on Thursday, and yeah, have a great rest of your evening or morning or day, wherever you are in the world. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, as always, really appreciate you taking your time to watch. If you could like the stream, that would be fantastic. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really appreciate that as well. It helps the channel grow. And yeah, thank you for your time today, guys, and I will speak to you guys soon. Cheers.